why don't we get started?
Okay.
So we're very fortunate today to have Jordan Wolfson with us for an interview, the focus of which will be on his new book, Painting and Consciousness. And I very recently read the book, and it's a wonderful, concise, very readable description of some of the key experiences Jordan has as a painter. Very worth reading. It's a quick read and a delightful read. So without any further delay, let's get going, Jordan. So do you want to talk about what the book's about a little bit?
Well, sure, but maybe before I get into the content of the book, I'll explain a bit how I got to writing the book, how that came about. I mean, I guess it's been some years now that I've felt like the world that I inhabit as a painter didn't seem to show up much in the art world, the art market, you know, the bigger art scene that, you know, the last decades have seemed to really be something else is going on. I mean, it's not like there's not great painting going on that you can find, of course, in the galleries, but it just seemed like context didn't really make sense for me. You know, if, you know, the way things are, the basic common denominator we have in the art world seems to be money. And, you know, for good or bad, that's, I mean, we all know that, well, that's not it. And yet we don't really seem to have a shared criteria. And so, you know, for meaning, I don't mean just, you know, like, oh, that's good, but like for meaning. And so, I mean, some years ago, I started to try to figure out, you know, what is the deeper meaning of painting? You know, for myself, I was trying to figure it out. And that led me to write an essay called How Painting Can Help Save the World, actually. This was about maybe 6 years ago. I think it was 2014. And there were a few books that I read that I found really helpful, like pieces of a puzzle. One was The Invention of Art by Larry Shiner. I have it here. I keep my books around when something like this. It helps me, like, my company. So Larry Shiner is doing a cultural history of the category of art. Like, how did we come to think of what we're doing as art, whatever that is? And so I got this understanding of the context that I've inherited as something that was actually not that old. It was 18th century, really. It's way more flexible than I had assumed. And it's like, and it's been going through lots of changes in the last half a century. It's like, oh, well, if that's the case, you know, maybe it'll keep changing, and maybe we can lean in somewhat, in some way towards the direction, or understand what some deeper significance is. I mean, you know, because clearly the cave paintings, you know, was it 40,000 years ago? I mean, they were not participating in the art world as we know it. And, you know, so what is this? And so that was one important book that contributed to the beginning of this recontextualization for me. Another book by Charles Eisenstein, The More Beautiful Worlds Our Heart Knows Is Possible. And he's talking about our civilization really is in huge transition, major transition. And I mean, I think we're all sort of feeling that these days for sure, you know. And this isn't just like short-term episodic chaos. We're in the middle of a big change. And I started to want to feel into, like, I know painting is important. It's not just important to me. I know it's a deep, important human activity. So how actually? How does it add in actually? And how can painting contribute to the times we're in? Not in a overtly like political, I've got to, I want to, I mean, we have a lot of that. We have a lot of painting today, like the rest of the art world is involved with identity politics and, issues of autonomy and political, and it's good. That's good stuff. But there are, I think for a lot of us, there's something inherently meaningful in painting as painting. And how does that contribute to move the world in a direction that is more whole, that is more beautiful? And so that led me to this essay that I wrote. And
what year was that, Jordan?
I think it was about 2014.
Okay.
It's on the website if anyone wants to find it. Also, I think so. Paintingperceptions.com hosted it. There's another website, The Awakened Eye, EYE, that also hosts it. Lovely site. And I started to think about, well, I had been thinking about painting as a kind of energetic transmitter, like energy, like human energy experience being somehow embedded into a painting, and then there is someone viewing the painting would sort of get hit and receives that energy that somehow, like when I'm looking at a Rembrandt self-portrait, there's something of this man's life force that is emanating out of that painting. I mean, we all know that.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, how does that happen? I mean, does it just look like him? I mean, what's going on? And so I started to be thinking about painting as a kind of, it's an object, but that somehow facilitates this kind of weave between people, and that from one subjective experience to another subjective experience somehow through the painting. Mm-hmm. And that our apparent separateness isn't real. That if it was real, how could painting do that? That somehow painting, through our experience of making and experiencing paintings, kind of reveals our interconnection, our interbeing. Charles Eisenstein, in his book, The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, uses the term interbeing, which he brings from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk. So I started thinking more about presence and energy and our interbeing and our interconnectedness, and how painting is a creative vehicle for us that reveals that participates in that very directly, very overtly. And around this time as well, I think just after maybe I wrote the essay, I came upon the teachings of Rupert Spira. And I got
to say who he is?
Well, he's a teacher of non-duality. And I didn't really think much about, I mean, maybe I'll talk a bit during the PowerPoint presentation about my own spiritual journey and how it kind of intertwines and dovetails with my painting. But I mean, what happened, well, I didn't really know much or think much about non-duality or, anyway, I think it was within 1 week, a couple of different sources, friends had mentioned a quote from this guy. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I ordered a book, there it is, The Transparency of Things. I think it's got a new cover now, new edition. That glare, there we go. Anyway, The Transparency of Things. And I started to read it. And I found it, it opened up a lot and led to a deepening of an understanding, among other things, of the nature of painting for me. And so, you know, over the years, slowly reading and listening to talks and practicing, and then I started to, you know, have thoughts about the nature of painting in this context of non-duality. What is painting? And I guess it was about 1.5 years ago or so, I just started writing things down and thought, okay, this feels like a contribution of some sort. I guess I should put this out there. And so that led to it seemed short, it still seems short, but it's has a fullness, I think. Anyway.
Absolutely, Jordan has wonderful fullness. You know, a minute ago you were talking about Spira, and I thought of the word collapse that you used in the book. Mm-hmm. Is that the experience that you would, is that how you would describe the experience one has in front of a Rembrandt portrait, for instance?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You know,
like the collapse of duality or something.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. There's a collapse of what I normally take to be me over here and the object over there. Mm-hmm. And that collapse, when it occurs through perception, whether it's through listening to music or looking at a beautiful vista or tasting amazing food, there's a collapse of what we normally take to be the subjective and the objective, the inside and the outside. Mm-hmm. And if it's through sense perception, we experience that collapse as beauty. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, that's great. You know, and then our mind kicks back in and it's like, and we think that the beauty is in the object. Mm-hmm. Because it was with the introduction of the object to that, ooh, that happened. But that's not, it's really the collapse itself, which ends up, what it's doing is just relieving us of the ongoing superimposed structure of the mind that I'm over here and the world's over there. Mm-hmm. And when that is relieved, we end up, in a way, kind of relaxing back into just who we are. And it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And lovely. And, you know, and then we come back and, you know, kind of gather ourselves. But, you know, you spend a day in a great museum and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is we live for those moments, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. What's been interesting is experiencing the possibility of painting as a practice, as a real practice of kind of impacting my system or my mind. Mm-hmm. To allow it to become more accepting, more flexible, more, you know, lending itself to an openness, so that through painting, I am more in touch with my deeper nature. And I can start to bring that, I mean, you know, for those of us that paint, I think we know, you know, when we're on, you know, that there's a sense of coherence and integration and wholeness and well-being. And so what is that? And can I take that with me out of the studio? Can I live with painting as a way that, you know, it's not that I'm using painting, it's painting, but it ends up changing the way I live. So that's how I understood coming to the book, writing the book, yeah, actually too. Yeah, because my mind, you know, it's slow, this kind of recognition, I guess is a word that works. And, you know, it's just a slow recognition, so.
You paint 4 or 5 days a week, right?
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Oh.
It varies. It really varies. You know, my kids have been home with the online schooling, and now it's changing. They're shifting. They're going back to school part of the week. But, you know, and then there's teaching and all of the pieces. So.
I was just thinking, though, you know, when you talk about painting as a practice, that when we engage regularly in a practice, it does permeate our lives quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah.
And that, I think that there's a way we can, I mean, my hope is that some of what I've written in the book becomes, like I'm trying to recontextualize the things that we are already doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what does it mean when we sit and look at the painting and feel into what it needs, and end up making moves that end up creating a sense of wholeness? You know, what is that? You know, and how does that affect me, and how can I practice it with some clarity about what that is beyond I'm trying to make a strong painting. I mean, I am, of course.
Right, but there's when the painting feels whole, then we feel whole, I think.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful thing. It's a.
Yes, and that I can't actually bring the painting to wholeness unless I am experiencing wholeness. There's a dialectic there, that those things go together, and actually it's only a dialectic, and there are separate things in the framework of our minds.
Mm-hmm.
That there is a painting over there, and that I am the painter making it over here. That is a construct of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I try to touch upon in the book.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is going on? I mean, if I drop underneath my mind into being here, you know, with awareness, because there's no way to be here and not be aware. What is that, and how does that play into the activity of painting? It was also helpful when Rupert Spira spoke about, at one point, periodically, I mean, he's a potter, he's a ceramicist, and he doesn't do it now. He put it all on hold. He packed up all of his studio, but he's a hell of a potter. I mean, they're beautiful forms, And he really, he speaks often, he'll bring in poetry and music. And so the aesthetic is very much a part of his life. And periodically he'll talk about jnana, I think it's called jnana yoga, which is realization through understanding. And he'll talk about, and there's bhakti yoga, which is through devotion and love. And then there's, and he said, it's not very well known or talked about, is Rupa Yoga, which is through the aesthetic and perception, coming to realization. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And I've been looking for books on this. If anyone out there knows any writing that's on Rupa Yoga, I'd love to read it. So I looked, Wikipedia or whatever, but that's all I even on, Amazon or whatever, I couldn't find stuff. A little bit, but not really.
Very interesting though, yeah.
Yeah, because we know that. It's like, oh, that's what we do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the great painters, clearly, Agnes Martin, Milton Resnick, but clearly Rembrandt and Cezanne and Titian and Morandi, and I mean, it goes on for sure. So what are they doing?
Yeah. Piero, yeah.
Piero, my goodness, yes. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there you go. So that's how I got to the book. And I think, that's more or less, so I'm trying to in the book, I'm trying to describe, I'm investigating. I'm trying, it's like, I'm like, what is this? What is painting in the context of consciousness? Consciousness as a term for like what is in a non-dual sense. Non-dual, there is no subjective and objective. There is no actual me and you. Not really. That's a construct of our minds, and it's not a bad one. It's great. It's just not fundamentally the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
So like underneath it all, what the heck is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And within that context, what's painting? So I'm trying to figure that out, and I'm writing about it. And then in light of those thoughts about it, I'm looking at different kinds of pedagogical things like, well, what does it mean to draw and find tonal relationships and work with composition? And, what are those things in this context, in this non-dual context?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the relationship of painting and consciousness and looking at a painting journey as a painter. What does this mean for us? So that's what, more or less, how I understand what the book is doing.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah. And before I forget, big shout out to Pauline. I don't know if she's on the call, but Pauline Brown was hugely helpful. And if anyone out there is interested in any self-publishing, she's who you should contact because she held my hand. It was super easy. She designed it. She's a great designer.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't think she is on this.
Well,
she must have been busy today. Yeah.
Contact me and I'll forward your info to her.
Okay.
Okay. So, should we look at pictures?
Sure. Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Should I look and see?
Maybe we should see if anyone has a question at this point. Yeah.
Oh, Svarupa Yoga? I don't know. Is that what it's called? Svarupa Yoga? Maybe.
Gabrielle, do you want to unmute yourself for a minute?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I haven't heard of Rupa Yoga, but I have heard of Svarupa Yoga. It's called Bliss Yoga.
Okay.
It's spelled S-V-A-R-O-O-P-A. You might look it up.
And do you know what some of the form works with? What kind of form is it?
It's a very very passive, kind of gentle yoga. It's
But
very
but a
quiet.
body, it's a body yoga, like a hatha yoga.
Yes, you practice it with your body,
Uh-huh.
but it's a very quiet yoga, very almost passive.
Like restorative?
Yes, exactly.
Sweet. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I have a quick question.
sure.
I was just curious, because I've heard of, like, there's the term spiritual awakening, whatever, whatnot, in which people tend to come to the realization of, of oneness, and that there's this peace and consciousness and all these things that you seem to have come across. And I'm wondering, did you have, like, for you, have you always thought about these things? Have you always been kind of like this? Was it slow, or did you kind of like wake up one day and go, oh my God?
So really since I was young, I've been involved with what we tend to call spirituality. I started meditating at a young age, and I was reading Siddhartha at a young age and all that stuff. And there have been periodically, like experiences that felt like flashes,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly it's just slow. It's just, for me, I mean, I think that it does happen, some big bang for folks, but that's not been my experience. My experience is it's just a slow, ongoing relaxing into it, or recognition, or a shifting of my system, or an opening of my system, or something like that. It's just slow,
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Maybe if there are any other questions about any of that right now, but you're also welcome, as we continue, if you want to, put a question in the chat. I'll keep checking the chat box if you guys want to ask questions as I go through. I guess I'll go over to pictures and the PowerPoint. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to share a screen, do a screen share. And so so we're now in sort of the late 90s. I'm living in Israel. I moved to Israel in 1992 after, excuse me. Well, I was in grad school at Yale for a couple of years. Then I did a residency at the Fine Art Work Center in Provincetown, and then I moved back to Israel. I was living in Jerusalem for a couple of years before going to grad school. I'm not used to talking about my painting development in relation to my spiritual development. And I gotta say, I'm uncomfortable talking about it as a spiritual development, although those are the terms we have. That seems to do a funny thing to it. But I guess
The word spiritual? Are you
yeah, I don't know, it just seems odd to me. It's kind of, but there it is. Anyway, I think, the truth is, I think that was what led me to fall in love with painting in the first place. Because I was, maybe we'll get an image a bit later. But I was an undergrad, and I took studio art. I was pre-med, and I was a bio major, taking all those courses, and then I was taking a studio art class for myself every quarter. I was at UC Santa Cruz. God, what a beautiful place! And there was, I think, my second painting class just blew me away, and it just felt like this is real. So that, in a way, I mean, that feels like a better way to describe spirituality for me. It's like trying to locate and live with what's really real. That feels more right. Anyway, so oh gosh, I was, oh gosh, let's see, how do I describe this? I was in college for a couple of years, then I took time off and I went traveling, you know, with a backpack for like a year and a half. And in that time, I ended up for about half a year in Israel. And that was sort of roots for me. My dad was Israeli, and I did a program that exposed me to some of the heritage, the spiritual heritage of Judaism and my people and all of that. And it was profound. So it gave me a hankering. I mean, after that, I went back to Santa Cruz and I finished up and I learned more about painting, and it was very exciting, but I wanted to go back to Israel to study more, to learn more about this Jewish practice. So I did that for about a year and a half. I lived in Jerusalem, and I lived with a dear friend in an apartment, and also had an extra room where I painted. I was doing these paintings while I was studying Judaism in a yeshiva. I was studying Talmud. And those paintings ended up bringing me, that's what I used to apply to grad school. And we'll see some of those. I'll show you some of those. So this is after that. This is many years after that. I'm living in Israel, and after grad school, and I'm figuring out my way of putting together my interest in working from observation with my marking. And I loved interiors. This is about 4 feet by 3.5 feet. And really trying to put together the mark that would sort of do a few things all at once. I wanted it to describe the light. I wanted it to describe the form. And I wanted it to explore the space, the feel of the space. So, you know, some of this sort of thing in here, the way the marks are kind of coming together and to make the space in a way. And I was also, what's that?
I just said that was a beautiful painting, I thought.
Oh, thank you. And also living in Israel became, I mean, it was kind of difficult in terms of my gallery career involvement, for sure. But as a painter, I found it really, it had profound impact on me. There's a real vibe there. There's an energy in the atmosphere that I wanted to live with, and that ended up, I guess I felt it sort of like a co-participant in the making of my work. And the light, so that the light is very intense, and the light felt like it broke into form. It was so bright, so glaring, and I was interested the way light dematerialized the form. And so this is a floor, you know, these marble tile floors, and the way the light kind of broke that sense of solidity. I was really interested in that. This is a large painting. This is a little over, maybe about 4.5 feet tall. And again, this experience of the interaction between light and form, or space and form, and this kind of fluidity of of interaction. And, you know, at the same time, I'm, you know, exploring my mark and my process of putting a painting together. You know, I had, for many years, I was painting both, you know, pretty straight up abstractions and pretty straightforward realist paintings. And this felt like I was coming into my own sense of integration of those two things. Here's another one.
As I look at them, Jordan, in light of the conversation we had before you put them up, I'm really noticing how they're affecting me internally.
Huh.
And anyway, it kind of deepens the experience. Just wanted to mention that. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, great.
Yeah. It makes me think too of, you know, in tantric practices in Buddhism, it's very much involved with images, looking at images, and as to evoke states of mind and aspects of ourselves. It's kind of, it kind of reminds me of that.
Is that practice, is that Dzogchen?
You know, I'm not, that's a Japanese word, I think.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Yeah.
My background is in Tibetan, so I don't know if that would apply or not. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, things to look into. But you know, the way, just the impacting on form, you know, in the way, and then also making, you know, finding myself being interested in marks that don't really seem to apply to something seen, but more felt, like this kind of deal over here, the way I'm trying to feel the, you know, or this here, just the overall feel of the space, you know. And this is a little more straightforward. This was also done at that time. I was living out in the foothills of Jerusalem, looking out, had this spectacular view 22 miles out to the Mediterranean. It was just, it was heaven. So these were all, oh, okay. So up to that last one was all this period of time that I was living in Jerusalem, in the foothills of Jerusalem, and then I moved back to the States. I had met an American living in Israel from New Jersey, and we got engaged and moved back to the States. And after a couple of years, we moved to Woodstock, New York, and this is from the studio there, and starting to explore. So a lot of the furniture I had, they became sort of like my actors in a troupe, and I would just reposition them in the new space and keep on exploring, you know, the way they hold the space and the interaction between the furniture and the space and the light, and you know, keep it going. And I found myself being interested in kind of dialing in one, you know, more of an emphasis on form or more of an emphasis on the space or the light. And so form would kind of come and go. This is about 4 feet by 3.5 feet. And I had a show in a gallery in New York, the DFN Gallery, and it was a pretty good show, but I felt kind of dissatisfied because the way the paintings were functioning in the gallery felt really different than the way they functioned in my studio. In my studio, all the work seemed to interact together to create something more more whole. And in the gallery, it felt like very discreet, this painting and this painting and this painting. I mean, you could see it was one person and it was a show, but it wasn't doing the same thing. And I realized that maybe I could put all of these pieces together into like a triptych, only it would be more than that. It would be like a polyptych. And that it was okay for me to shift the way I was painting stylistically, that was okay. Like basically you could do what you wanted to do. And so this was a still life that I started to really push. And that is part of it as well. And really kind of feeling into this, I fell in love with Milton Resnick as an undergrad. I was interested in Ad Reinhardt, and this whole kind of field of subtle visual experience was very interesting and is very interesting to me. And so I thought, well, I'll just make that a polyptych. Okay, let's see. I think we've got, let me check. Okay, so here we've got some landscapes. I'm going back in time. This is undergrad at UC Santa Cruz. So University of California at Santa Cruz. If you haven't been there, oh my goodness, it's got to be one of the most beautiful campuses, college campuses in the world. They put the college buildings in the redwood forest, and the Santa, you're in the foothills of the Santa Cruz Mountains, and you're overlooking the Santa Cruz Bay, and it was just gorgeous. And so what was my second year? Peter Loftus, Loftus. He taught us, whoever was interested, in the springtime, we'd go and do landscape painting. And it was just fabulous. And, so getting, learning how to just get out and paint. This was in the thick of the redwood forest. I need to get some good images of these paintings. These are all scanned from old slides.
Do you still have the paintings?
I don't know. I think this I have. This is, so I was doing, this is, I referenced that class that I fell in love with painting. This isn't from that, but it comes out of that class. There was a 5th year graduate program, post-baccalaureate program that I did. And this was just a sort of this abstract painting I was working on. So there was the plein air and there was the abstraction. This was also, so this was, going out into the thicket and looking directly into the thicket. Now I'll reference, that I really loved doing it. And I did a bunch of paintings out in the middle of the forest, and very influenced by, the abstract expressionist and de Kooning and Pollock. There's another one.
These are gorgeous, Jordan. I've never seen them.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you included them. They're beautiful. You were a pretty good painter as an undergrad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, so here this is the same time. So what am I? I don't know, maybe I'm mid-20s, something like that. And this is an aleph. This is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And also, in terms of Jewish mysticism, the aleph has a particular importance. It's a silent letter. It's the beginning. In a sense, it's kind of like references infinity and the beginning of creation and all of this sort of thing. And it's a gorgeous form. And I was working, so along with sort of the working from observation and working abstractly, I was also working with this. And I did a number of pieces, both in drawing and painting. So this is a dark charcoal black on black. Again, thinking of folks like Ad Reinhardt. this was maybe 3 feet by 3 feet or 2 feet by 2 feet, something like that. And then I did it also very large, like a 5 foot by 5 foot painting. Although I'm not sure if this is that one. Oh, and I did, right, I did a whole slew of these, these are all Hebrew letters that are all kind of overlapping and intertangling. And, intertangling? And I was thinking about, there was a Hasidic master called Rebbe Nachman from Breslov. And I don't know why I'm thinking of him in reference to this. Maybe because he told stories, and so words became a kind of a gateway. And this one, I think it's in Fort Collins. Some folks that were grad students, God bless them, they bought this painting. I was so proud. And he teaches, I think he teaches up in Fort Collins, and I think they moved here, and it's been years. I need to say hi.
You know, Jordan, so I've been reading this, just the other day I read a Philip Guston piece, and he was talking about the Hebrew language as embodying, I guess because it was used to describe the teachings, that it's revered in a certain way. Are you familiar with that? Well,
yes, the Hebrew language is seen as a sacred language, as a holy language. And what's trippy for me is that so I became fluent in Hebrew and then also studied in yeshiva. So I was, like going and reading the original Hebrew for the Torah and the creation stories and all this stuff. And there was a sense of the language itself having a power.
Yeah.
It's very different in English. It doesn't function in the same way. When you read the translation, it's telling a story, but it doesn't have the same kind of archetypal impact.
Mm-hmm.
There's something else about, and then, when you go into like the myths, like one of the stories is that, God created the creation out of Hebrew letters. That the Hebrew letters are the building blocks.
Mm.
Yeah. So around this time as well, I met a wonderful fellow who, so I was turned on to my roots, my spiritual roots, Judaism and this sort of thing. And so I would go and hang out on Shabbat, Friday night through Saturday night with this fellow who lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains and had built a cabin for himself in the thick of the forest. And every week I would go and hang out and spend the Shabbat and there with him. And we would sing songs and drink wine and have a wonderful meal. And there was no electricity, so it was all candlelight. And we would walk back in the dark of the redwood forest. And it was magic. And there was something about being in the thick of the night that really started to mean a great deal to me. So I started doing these night paintings. And this one now I am back in Jerusalem. So eventually, right, this is after I finished undergrad, I finished the post-bac program, and I moved back to Jerusalem to study and paint, and I continued to do these night paintings. So this is like looking out our kitchen window at a tree. And this, oh, this was in a friend's porch in the city of
That's
Swan.
beautiful. So beautiful.
Biggish painting. Well, medium-sized painting.
Huh. You gotta find these, Jordan.
Okay. And this is 3 cypress trees in Jerusalem that I remember very well. Like the 3 witches in Macbeth or something. And I did a series of dry flowers. So kind of continuing, well, no, this was the beginning of it. I took a motif and did it in different ways. I was in my late 20s. And it was only decades later when I was doing this, that polyptych that I had described and subsequent polyptychs that I realized, oh, I did that. That's what I was doing then. Oh, I thought I was discovering something. And it was like, no, man, I'm just doing what you did before. And then I started, I mean, here's a mix of things that was occurring. One, I was interested in sort of the dematerialization of the wall. Terrible slide, but this is what we got. And the way the solid wall was just becoming like atmosphere. But I was also interested, I started to get interested in kind of a hard-nosed architecture and really trying to get what I saw. So that's, at this point, I applied to grad school and I'm using these paintings in my application. And I ended up going to Yale in '89 and started by doing this painting. And very gray. I mean, I want to get all these little pieces of dry flowers. I didn't know what to paint. I don't know what I'm doing. And there was this little spoon. I think I have that spoon. Anyway, so Bailey's talking to me. He comes in and he sees everything is really turned to kind of gray. And he starts trying to explain tonality and tonal relationships. It's like, oh, so that came next. And that was a big turn for me. And it was like, oh.
What did Bailey say about tonal relationships?
Well, you got to look for, don't go into the detail, go into the large relationships. This big area to this big area to this big area, the way they all fit together. And then once that's set up, you can get into the smaller stuff. But I had it backwards. But I was still interested in the way, in the bringing the value relationship very, very close. So I did this again that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was interested in the kind of the open space, the dematerialization of the wall. It was a weird painting. And, but I was really apprenticing myself to appearances, to getting this thing. I mean, it was, there was a kind of a minimalist deal going on. Gabriel Latterman actually talked about my work as kind of minimalist realist or something. He was a hoot. And I still have that that fabric. It's a beautiful fabric.
Yeah, I've seen that fabric.
Yeah. And the sink. So there was in the graduate studios, there was this sink that everyone would clean their brushes. And I've told a bunch of you the story of how, you know, Andrew Forage came by when I was doing this painting and he said, "What are you doing?" And as I'm painting the sink, I mean, it seemed pretty obvious to me I was painting the sink. And, you know, this is where everyone cleaned their brushes. So, you know, there were lots of fresh paint and a lot of old caked on paint, and a lot of the fresh paint, you know, like a quinacridone red or a lime green, but I had edited all that out and just gone for all of these, you know, caked on grays, you know. And he said to me, well, compared to your painting, the actual sink looks like a bouquet of flowers. And you know, he kind of, you know, pulled me up short, and he said, you need to start thinking about what you're doing. And you know, it continues to resonate in my head like a gong.
Well, but you said you were interested in close tonal value.
Oh, yes, yes. But the story I was telling myself was, I'm painting what I'm seeing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm just painting what I'm seeing. And of course, that's not what I'm doing. In fact, that's never what we're doing. So what are we doing? You know, and what is going on? I mean, this, you know, this is, you know, in the light of, you know, the earlier part of the conversation, it's like, what is going on here? And how is it that this image of colored mud is somehow carrying more or less force, life force, impact? What's going on? And what's my way of bringing life force into the material? What are my terms? And why are, you know, why am I, you know, what is this?
Yeah. Like what's motivating your decisions?
Yeah, yeah. And I don't need to unpack it like psychologically. I just need to, I mean, I can if it serves, but I need to clarify the terms of the engagement in order to make the impact more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So at the same time that I was doing this kind of hard-nosed realist stuff, I was also doing these gestural, abstract, acrylic paintings on paper. This was my last semester in grad school, and I was totally schizophrenic and not a little panicked by it. You know, you're supposed to, I thought, come out of grad school and know what you're doing. And my God, no. I was just totally split. But I did love landscape painting. So after grad school and after the Fine Art Work Center, I moved to Israel. I'm in the foothills of Jerusalem, going out. There was a fellow there, a hell of a good painter. And we would go out together and paint in the foothills. And I loved the air and the atmosphere and the light. And definitely influenced by Corot. Oh, hello. These are not, yeah, that's maybe 2 feet by 2 feet, something like that. Unfortunately, I believe that's now a big shopping mall. Too bad.
Kind of looks like the smoke we've had recently.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, all that haze.
Mm-hmm.
And from my apartment, this was the kitchen sink. This is a detail. I can't find a slide of the whole painting. Hanging out and painting the sink. That's under the sink.
You're still in Israel at this point?
Yeah, well, yes, I had moved. Now I'm moved back after grad school.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of back and forth. And now this is after 1992, I lived there for 10 years. And the first 7 years, my apartment really becomes my major model and motif that I'm painting over and over again. And I'm starting to loosen up my mark. I'm experimenting in my drawing and in my painting with my gesture. And so some of that gestural stuff that we saw in those abstract paintings in grad school get integrated, or begin to get integrated with my desire to paint what I'm looking at. Those two things are starting to come together. Hundreds of drawings. I mean, literally hundreds of drawings of the apartment. Here's a series looking out onto my little porch. And working with the gesture. And the way the mark and the light and the form and the dematerialization and the space, I mean, all those things, playing with all those pieces. And kind of simplifying a palette and going at it. I wonder if I should try and see if there are. Can I find? Is there a way to check chat while I do this?
I think it'll show up in the middle of your picture.
Oh, okay.
But you could check it. You could take a second and check it. Just go to the bottom and click on chat.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? On the bottom.
It says participants and then it says chat.
I don't have that. I just have my screen.
Oh.
Oh, up top. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. I get it. Up here. Hang on. Let me see. Chat. Ooh, I can do it. Okay. I see. Here we go. Was I already thinking about non-duality at this point? No, I wasn't thinking about non-duality as such, but I certainly was thinking what we might call spiritual terms. So, like in Judaism, there is a term, the Shekhinah, which it means like the immanent aspect of God or divine presence. And so it really did feel like there was a way of relating to a sacred energy, a divine energy in the motif. That it was here. In fact, it felt pretty unavoidable, actually. One of the reasons why I wanted to live in Jerusalem, live in Israel, was because the vibe there is so vivid. Particularly after growing up in Southern California and shopping malls. It was like you couldn't but feel meaning in the air. Not like philosophical meaning, but like palpable, like it just felt meaningful, poignant. And I just wanted to paint that. I mean, it really did impact the way I worked. Let's see, I want to see what the other questions were. It's not opening now. Why is that? Here's chat. Maybe it's here? No. Oh, here it is. Let's see, come back. Oh, thank you. Well, I hope to have a show actually next summer, so, and maybe a workshop. Do I have an idea as to why it's so palpable there? I think, let me see what else is up here. Let's see, I agree to whisper. Yeah. Get on, yep. Thank you. Cool. So I think there are certain places on the planet that the energy is just more available. I think in different ways. I mean, India is, different areas of the country of India are just phenomenally off the charts energetically. Yeah, I don't know why exactly, but it certainly is there, and it does. yeah, I mean, in Jerusalem, you feel it. And I think, I mean, it can make people nutty, unfortunately, and kind of wanting to claim it, you know, and fight over it. We're seeing that.
Mhm.
But I don't really understand it. Okay, so
Well, it's so imbued with religious and spiritual history. I mean,
oh, for sure.
just
For sure.
laden with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
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 And so that's, but I think I wonder if it wasn't already something inherently there. I don't know. I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I don't know. But
Sometimes
certainly, I mean,
feel
it's
that it's,
thousands of years. I mean, you know, this is the Church of Gethsemane, and here is the, you know, here is the garden, and you know, and I mean, there's all kind, you know, and then here's the Dome of the Rock, and here is, I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and they're all within, like, you know, a half a mile from each other.
Mhm.
You know, it's just sort of extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's hard too. I mean, it's not an easy thing to live with in a daily way over and over again. So it helps to actually do something like paint or write poetry, or, you know, as a way of working with all that energy.
Sometimes I feel that way in New York.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Have you ever felt that in New York? I do.
Well, it's different, but yeah, there's a lot of energy that I need to do something with. Yeah.
Very different. Yeah.
Okay. Next image. Let's see what we got here. There we go. So here I'm working with Mark both as description of tone, but also as exploration of spatial structure, the feel of the space. So this was the road outside of my little apartment where I lived, and trying to put those the marking and gesture together with tone.
These are small, quick.
Yeah, this is about 2 feet by, maybe this is 24 by 18, something like that.
Mhm.
There was I was standing on the roof, you know, big eucalyptus tree looking out over the, you know, the neighborhood. These are oh, what do you call it? Hot water, solar panels, and the hot water tank for your shower. And then I'm back in the States. And now we're moving ahead, and I'm continuing from that first section when I first started to talk. And so now I'm deliberately going ahead with this, you know, very, very, you know, I'm setting up a polyptych. I'm doing the same motif of the flowers in 3 different modalities. All from observation. So now I think maybe we've moved up to like 2000, and we're in like 2008. We're back, you know, getting close to our time now. And these are each panel is like, what is this? 28 by 25 inches. Drawing all through this, I haven't really shown many drawings, but drawing has been a very important part of my practice, leading in many ways the painting, so that I'm able to explore my drawing ways of working and interests, and then I'm try to figure out, well, how do I do that in painting? And, you know, I mean, haven't spoken well, a little bit, but, you know, this whole interaction of space and form and dematerialization, and, you know, it sort of has, you know, and as crystallized into some of these thoughts about non-duality and paint as a context for painting.
Can I ask, is the word dematerialization, is that, does that come from Mondrian?
Oh, does it come from him?
Yeah, I was just
Dematerialization?
wondering, because he does a lot of that, right? Where he did a lot of that, I mean.
I don't know.
Okay.
You know, he was certainly interested in, you know, spiritual matters and theosophy and all of that. That was his root.
I was just curious. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. These are about 26 by 22 inches. They're like 4 feet by 3.5 feet. Let's see if this gets any decently big. It's not bad.
A little out of focus, maybe.
Oh, is it? Oh, it's not too
Slightly.
bad over here. Is it coming into focus at all?
Yeah,
Okay,
it just did. Yep.
great. So then I decided I wanted to do an interior, not just in 3 or 4 parts, but in 27 parts. And so why 27? I don't know exactly, but I just like, let's go and see what happens. So this is interior in 27 parts, even though there's actually 28 panels. And I started to understand it as an installation. This is in 2010. And what we're going to see now are 4 kind of mock walls, what the walls would look like. And these big paintings would be like, that's about 4 feet tall. So the idea is that you would go into like this big room and slowly make your way through all of these images of the same interior. And now here, I'll just kind of go through them. This is the order that I would understand, right, setting it up.
Somebody's asking if these are sold separately.
People have been after me for a long time to sell. There's a particular one on my wall, and I've refused. I'm holding out for this whole thing. It's one big thing, but maybe I'll.
Well, I mean, you
find a
want
way
to
to do
sell
it.
it as one big thing?
What's that?
You're hoping to sell it as one big thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is one big thing, and so I don't want to break it up.
And where have you shown it as one thing?
Nowhere.
Yeah, well, that would be important.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'd like to. If anyone knows anyone that's got 4 really big walls and some open time, let me know. That's that one, people. It's like, I want that one.
Jordan, there's a question you might want to look at.
Okay, hang on. Let's see. How do I get to it? Nope.
Chat.
I'm trying.
Hmm.
There we go. That's how to do it. Do I have an idea as to, oh, that's a different question. Whoop, come here. Did you work there or paint full time? No. Can you explain the mind shift that happens from image to image? Ah, great question. The mind shift. what I know is that the mind shifts. And so I became interested in letting that occur and following it and playing with it, and both kind of following it and initiating it, and like, okay, let's do it this way. Okay, let's do it this way. Okay, let's do it this way. But a lot of the time it's like, oh, where's my energy at? And oh, okay, let's do that. Or I think, okay, I'm going to do it this way, but then no, my energy is really over here. So sometimes it'll get slower. Sometimes it'll get faster. And what became interesting over time was the way, so I became interested in investigating or giving space to just the daily shifts of energy, or hourly shifts even, and how it changes my way of exploring the situation. But then there was a sense of continuity as well, so that even though it could be very different stylistically, more realist, more abstract, whatever, there was a kind of ongoing continuity of energy or presence. It was all clearly my making. So that was interesting. And then over time, it became interesting to watch how my mind would shift as I would go from image to image. And a sense of gap in between as I would go from image to image. And the gap started to get interesting. That came a little bit later than this set. That was a few years ago now. But you know, the mind just keeps changing. That's what it does. And then kind of locating what's underneath the mind and letting that participate more fully as we make.
There's some more questions too that kind of build on that. Yeah,
Okay.
I was just pointing them out. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see if I can figure out how to get more. Nope, that's interesting, but that's not what you
That's
do.
beautiful.
Let me see if I can do it like this. There we go. That's the way to do it. Okay. Thank you. I'm glad you like seeing the early work. Yeah, the how and the why of the dematerialized paintings. Well, the how comes through endeavoring or being interested in painting the space as opposed to the form. I mean, the form is there, but sort of just my kind of leaning into the feel of the space or the feel of the light, letting that take more of my attention than the description of the form, and then playing with edges. Edges become very important, and mark. So that's sort of like the how, but the why the dematerialization, because it feels real, you know, because there is an experience of being that isn't reliant on form, which is sort of amazing, but right, it's like being doesn't have form. And yet here we are in form. And is there a way to deal with form, work with form, play with form, make form that's beautiful, that somehow takes into account or is informed by, no pun intended, is informed by being non-form? Like, what's the relationship of form and non-form? And this gets back to the non-dual. It's like, what is going on? And can I explore that in painting? And I don't mean, can I come up with the answer? I'm not saying an answer. I'm just saying the question. Can I explore that in painting? Let's see. Non-duality seems more likely to be obtained painting abstractly. It depends on your inclination. You know, Morandi, for me, Piero, his robes, you know. So I think it really depends on where you live, where's your life force, where's your access point. Are you thinking of metaphors as you choose subjects? Empty rooms, chairs. They occur to me in retrospect, like when I think about the director's chair. After drawing and painting it for many years, it occurred to me, oh goodness, this is a physical form, a structure, a chair, stand-in for a human being, but it's holding empty space, and I'm looking through the chair to what's behind it and around it. So that's interesting. It's like, oh, director's chair. Plus, of course, you know, the idea of a director's chair. But so, you know, I am drawn to situations of form and emptiness, for sure. That's part of my, I'm attracted to it. The ability to paint in a meditative state, I wouldn't call it I'm not in a meditative state really when I'm painting. I'm just painting, you know, just working like we all are. Yes, all things vibrate and permeate. Absolutely. Yes. You know, it's like, you know, Cezanne it's very clear. He is right there. You know, you look at a little still life by Cezanne, it's all vibrating and permeating. And, you know, clearly after Cezanne, nothing's the same. I mean, our understanding has changed. What do I mean by non-duality? So, yeah, good question. So, through the teaching of Rupert Spira, I became exposed to the idea of non-duality. I hadn't really thought of it like that. So the sense of non-duality is that there's really only one reality. That when we think of different things, I'm over here, you're over there, this is a table, this is right, inside, outside, all of those differentiations are all an overlay of our minds onto really just one existence, or one, not existence, but one, we don't have a word, one being. But by the nature of our minds are constructed to differentiate language. And so we move into differentiation. We move into difference as if difference is inherently separate. But there is the possibility of recognizing underneath our minds, underneath the language, underneath the thinking, we have the ability to recognize simply being. It's not a mystical thing like some fantastic realization. It's very daily. What becomes tricky is staying with it, because we get hooked into, you know, all kinds of stuff goes on all the time, and I got to go shopping, and I got this and that, and we go on and on and on. but underneath it all is very simple. And through recognizing that and living there more knowingly, there's a gradual shift occurs in terms of our experience. Something like that.
Yeah, I think there's even a physical manifestation of, like, don't all the cells of our body change every
7 years, I think.
something like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're just all one big hunk of matter and energy.
That's some beautiful things people are writing.
Mhm.
I heart Huckabees. Cool. Walt Whitman. Totally. Non-duality. Adonai Echad. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Gosh. This is lovely. One material. Well, not only one materiality, but materiality participates in one being. That materiality isn't really material. That's a construct. It's an overlay in space and its experience. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, vice versa. Absolutely. One mode of existing, one existence. Yes, yes. Cool. This is very cool. Beautiful. All right. So, yeah, concerning painting. Right. How does this relate to painting? Well, that's what I'm trying to talk about in my book. Sweet. Yeah. Yes. Beautiful. Okay. All right. Should we go through the rest of these? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to keep going. We are now in the middle of interior in 27 parts. And okay. So here's another one. The drawings are about 26 by 22 inches. This is 4 feet tall. And I'm doing them all from observation, right? So this is done from observation, but this is also done from observation. I just didn't change the color a whole lot.
Hmm. So you've done some obliteration in these.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Forms come and go.
With like gouache or oil?
Acrylic.
Acrylic.
Oh no, that's not the last one. So this was supposed to be the last one, but it's not. That's the last one.
Hmm.
Then, oh, there's this. So this is also 2010. I did looking at the Boulder Valley from well, what's the name of the mesa? Davidson Mesa. And so this is a polyptych of 9 panels over time. So the seasons change a bit, and then also I would every other end up doing these again from observation, but a different attitude of painting. And then here's a series of interiors again. This is, I don't know, it's 2013 maybe, or 13 maybe. And they're each about 28 by 25 inches, I think. 22, 25 by 22, I don't know.
That looks really recent. Is that recent?
This? No, these are all from, this is like 2013 or 14, something like that.
Oh, okay.
It's about, there's 7 of them I did in a little period of time together. It became kind of like a series for me.
That's nice.
And then looking at this is also my studio, but looking in the other direction. And I did it again.
Wow.
Whoops. Go back. That was fast. There's actually a couple in the series that aren't in here. I didn't get a good image of them. So just, you can see I'm playing with different ways of, different modalities or different ways of playing with the situation.
Here's a new question. You want me to read it to you?
Sure.
It says, do you think there's any room for invention without non-duality?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is there room for invention without non-duality?
Judith, do you want to unmute yourself and explain?
Something new, Jordan. It seems everything has been done. Is there any room, or do you feel?
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with like the idea of non-duality. You mean like, is it possible for you to make something that hasn't been done before?
Is that possible for anyone?
Of course. Let me put it this way. If I am trying to do something that is going to be meaningful art historically in some great way and create some stylistic innovation, can that be done or not? I don't know. But if I'm interested in creating something that's real and authentic to my experience, and so something new comes into being because I'm living deeply within myself as I'm working, that's absolutely possible. Whether it's going to be picked up on the radar of art historians and critics is a whole other question, and I'm not sure how relevant it is anymore. But can I make something that's never been made before? Absolutely. If I'm paying attention while I'm making, that's new. And I'm not trying to be coy. I think that the category of doing something that's never been done before, I think it's a false category. It's a category that has become important at this point, I believe, for art market purposes. I'm not sure it has any inherent value for us, because what becomes important is that what is made is real, has real power, has a real life force. Has it stylistically ever been done before? I don't know. But does it resonate? That's the question.
With you or the viewer?
I believe with everybody, with me, with the viewer. That's what makes something valuable for us as human beings. Now, whether it's going to be valuable for the market, that's a different question. And that has to do with market concerns. Is it new and improved? Is this a really good detergent that is going to clean my clothes brighter than bright and is using ingredients that have never been used before? Well, that's worth a lot of money. You see what I mean?
I think I'm kind of lost. I feel that it's very important to have a lot of enthusiasm and guts and enjoying your painting
Right.
without the thought of where am I going to sell this?
Absolutely.
Right. So now where are we with art? If we wanted to become an artist as a profession, where are we?
Oh, you mean how do you make a living and paint?
Yeah.
I don't mean to, that's a big question. That's a tough one.
Well, I don't understand what you're getting at as far as the market.
So what I'm trying to say in terms of the market is, okay, let me back up. We are concerned, as makers, we want to make stuff that is authentic to us.
Yes.
We want our painting to be real for us.
Yes.
In that sense, we want to be original. We don't want to just copy something that's been done before.
Exactly.
Okay. But the idea of making something original, and I want to make my work be original, unlike what other people have made, ends up putting my attention outward into seeing what other people do and not trying to do that, as opposed to where is my passion and just working from my inside, come what may. And maybe it'll end up looking like something that someone else has made. Maybe. But that is not my concern. My concern is making something that is real from my inner perspective and not being concerned whether it has been ever done before. That's an overlay that I'm trying to say, I believe, comes from a market concern. Selling.
Well, I'm obviously not interested in becoming a seller at almost 80. I'm interested in the emotions and the guts of paintings.
Then just do that. Don't worry about being original. Just worry about, not worry, but just keep digging into being real for yourself. That's all.
And that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to say. Be real within who you are as far as what you do with sketches or anything else that you do in life. Just
That's right.
you with that.
That's right.
Then now when you're in, okay.
And when you do that, something real will occur.
Yes.
And that's more important than has it ever been done before? That I think it's a false question.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Ask questions sometimes, but that was a good answer. Thank you,
Good.
Joe.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we're back here to these. I got a few more to go through, and then so here you can. So these are all about 4 feet by 3.5 feet, and then I did a still life. I didn't bring the whole series. It's a long series, and I'm doing it in different attitudes. Dematerializing, or more with form, or different ways of playing the palette. Bigger, whole thing. And again, all from observation. Please mute if you're not muted. Thank you. Oh, so then I did, that was the end of the still life. So now these are some large interiors in black and white. This is, what is this? 46 by 40. And now continuing interiors, yeah, smaller. These are a couple of small black and white ones. And some color, I think. No, some drawing. So again, you know, drawing. I just keep drawing all along, along with the paintings. And recently I went back out into the forest after, gosh, I don't know, what is it, 30 years? Well, I mean, once in a while I would do something during a workshop, but basically haven't really just gone back into the thicket of the forest and painted. And I did it this summer and it was just great. This is Boulder, Chautauqua. And, you know, I've often thought of my attitude towards the interiors being influenced by my landscape painting.
What are we looking at here?
That's the
Interior?
interior, right?
Okay.
So this is the director's chair facing in. This is the darker red chair. This is the window behind it. Here's the yellow chair. I mean, isn't it obvious? Sorry. This is the rug on the floor.
Pardon me.
This is the plant. Yeah.
Is that a landscape?
No, this is again the
There's your
interior.
rug.
Same
I-
setup.
Yeah, I see.
Here's the
rug.
red rug now. Yeah, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the little red cloth and the yellow chair.
Boy, they are similar to the landscapes, though. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to go out into the landscape finally, actually again, you know, and yeah, and I think that's it for the screen share.
Great. Gorgeous, gorgeous show, Jordan. Beautiful.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. So it's about 10 to 12, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, should we take some more questions, or
Yeah.
do you want to talk about how people can get a hold of your book, Jordan?
Oh, sure. It's now available on the website. You can, if you go to, on the menu bar, there it says Writings and Talks is on the menu bar. And if you go to that, it should be on the top left of the page. There'll be a post for the book, and you can order the book. If the shipping and the cost of the book have been put together. If you're ordering internationally, please go to the donation page. It'll explain that, and that'll be helpful because international is a lot more. Just send it out to you. Yeah.
I have a comment,
Sure.
if that's okay. I just watched an entire interview with Jill Bolte Taylor.
Who?
Have you heard of her? Jill Bolte Taylor. So this whole thing sounds so much like her story, or her story is, you know, tainting or painting my listening to you. She was a neuroscientist who had a stroke in the left side of her brain, and her left
was this a
brain,
TED Talk?
Yeah, she did do a TED Talk. I watched her interview with Oprah,
Okay.
and she went into a lot more detail of how in the right brain is because your left brain is the thing that creates separateness and your identity and your ego and everything. Materialism about the world is, I guess, situated in your left brain. And when that all disappeared, she was just in this world of, you know, light and energy and peace and connectedness to everything. And so I just kind of thought, like, you know, the whole time I was thinking, like, what if she was a painter? And this, you know, or what if that happened to a painter? How that would change their experience. And I just wanted to mention it, especially because art is so, we talk about art as if it comes from the right brain. And if her experience is right, and the right brain is where all this connectedness and consciousness exists, and, you know, you're basically trying to connect with the right brain, possibly. I don't know. This is a thought that I wanted to share.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. In terms of what I'm describing, the experience of what you're naming as the left brain and the experiences that you're naming as the right brain, all of that comes out of consciousness. It's not that consciousness comes out of the right brain. Our experience of the right brain comes out of consciousness.
Right.
That's the container.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very dualistic, right? Like left brain, right brain.
Let's see what else we have. Was this recorded? Yes, this is recorded, and I will be posting it soon. I'll let you all know. Yes, it's on video. You're very welcome. Wonderful. Anything else? Let's see.
Just want to recommend the book again. It's like I said, it's something that you can just have around and read once in a while. It's a lovely description of a lot of what Jordan's talked about today.
Oh, thanks, Carl. Well, thank you all for coming and joining me, and you know, sharing all of this with you. It's great, and thank you, Cara, and hope you're all well and painting out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Feel free to unmute
Fabulous.
yourself. And
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really inspiring.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad to hear it.
Thanks, Jordan.
You're welcome.
As always.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Jordan.
Okay.
Thanks.
Jordan,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thanks, everybody.
I just did tell you how to get it on. Is that old? How to get the book? I think I might have already said it. Writings and Talks.
Yeah.
Go to on the website. Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Do we hang out? Or do we go?
Well, everybody's still here, so I think I should end the meeting.
Thanks, Cara. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jordan.
Have a great day.
Really, you did a great job. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
I hope I didn't butt in too much.
No, you not at all. I
Okay.
could butt in.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Take care.
Okay, so I looked through the recording, and just a few things that I'd like to add to it before posting this. One, again, thank you to Art Workshops Boulder and to Cara for setting all of this up. Also, I just wanted to change the camera angle just a little bit. It was a little unfortunate, and the view from of my nose wasn't great, but here we're a little better now. And also, I think it was clear, but just to be sure, I'm really not a teacher of non-duality. I'm just a painting teacher, and it just seems to me that the context and the language of non-duality feels very resonant and relevant to me as a painter and how I understand painting. And I think it really contributes to how I believe we need to recontextualize what painting is today. I think painting has a real contribution to make to all the changes that we're in the middle of. Not just as a pleasurable aesthetic experience. I mean, it can, of course, be that, but I think that there's a very real aspect of painting that functions as an active vehicle for the experience of our interbeing, of our actual shared being. And we need that today. It's not an extra thing. It's deeply necessary that we together recognize this. And I feel that painting really does that very actually, very directly, very enjoyably. And so I wanted to share that, and I wanted to add that now. Coming back to where I started, in the beginning of the interview, talking about how I got to these thoughts. So that's it. And thank you again. And I look forward to being in touch and painting. Okay, take care, everybody. Be well. Bye-bye.